Hello everybody, welcome to my presentation on how to configure MFT protocols with B2B DataExchange. The agenda for today's discussion will be looking at a couple of frequently used protocols like FTP, MLLP, and looking at how to configure them. We'll also be looking at how to collect logs from them and how to contact Informatica support, and we'll reach out to the Clio support. So now let's just get started with configuring this. Here I have my B2B DataExchange admin console, and once I get into the administration tab, I click on MFT console to launch the MFT console. You should see this if you've started your real trade or service and if you have the required license. Once in there, let's just wait, give it a couple of seconds for it to get initialized. Okay, so here you see a couple of tabs, the active tabs and the pre-configured tabs. Let's click on the pre-configured tab and you will see a bunch of, when you click on generic, you will see a bunch of list of protocols that you have based on your license. You have FTP, SFTP, SMTP, MLLP, and various other protocols. Choose the ones that you need, but today I'm just going to be covering the generic FTP and MLLP since these are used most by the customers. So generic customer, before you get started, the first thing that you need to do is to click on the one that you need and say clone and activate. Once you do that, you get into the active tab, and this is where we'll be doing most of the configuration. For now, I'm just going to use the test FTP, which I've already cloned and activated. So getting into there, my server address. Server address is something where your FTP server is running. So for now, I've just said ironwood.informatica.com. The port is already configured to 21, and the connection type is system default. You can choose to have direct internet access or VPN. Inbox is the location where your FTP files are going to be placed from your remote server. Outbox and sendbox are quite self-explanatory. When you click on the FTP tab, you will see a couple of data types, either ASCII or binary. Most likely, if you want to send files over, you might want to choose the binary tab. Then let's quickly move on to the mailbox tab. Mailbox tab is where you will give your username password to the remote FTP server. If you have no password, just say no password is required. Now, when you click on the mailbox, you have the receive and send options. The receive and send options are where you actually give the actual command which needs to be passed on to the remote FTP server. So here I have get home care and mail all files. And then when you press this run command, what you see is you can go through the messages to see the command that has gone through, and if you have a success or a failure. If you have a failure, you can know why it didn't fail. And the send tab is basically to put some files back into the remote server. So that's it for the FTP program. It's quite simple. Now let's quickly move on to the MLLP. Moving back to the pre-configured tab, we choose MLLP, and then from generic MLLP, we will press the clone and activate, which will quickly move to the active console. For test, let's just use the MLLP test that I've already configured. And going in here, you again have the server address, which is the remote server where your Clio is running. For now, it's just test.clio.com, and the connection type is as explained in the FTP. Inbox is the same, where you want all the MLLP files to be put. Now click on the MLLP tab and you have the acknowledgement modes. You have HS7 original acknowledgements, enhanced, and release. These are based on what the customer requires, and based on your use case, you could pick one. The default file name that most go with is a .mllp with the date and time of the file. You may choose to change it if you need to. The advanced is again sometimes important because you have various bunch of options that go with these commands. And let's say if you want to email on a success, you may choose to do that to a particular address as well. And there are various other commands like how long you have to retry if a connection fails. Please go through them in detail when you get a chance. So now let's quickly move to the My Mailbox folder. So the inbound action may be left to SFC because you haven't been receiving files. And this tab where it specifies queuing. Queuing, you may select the output queuing and use queue. Queues are basically to say that you'll not be using file system or just the general queues to send the messages back and forth. If you use an outbound action send, make sure that you press it to send and run it automatically. If you don't want to create your queues, then you have to have the queue already created and you have to be considered. You have to configure them as well. So Clio Clio actually supports only very few protocols. So the queue type that they support right now is MQ. So leave it as is, and the queue name that they support is all direct equals OS and the rest. So pretty much do not change much with this, and just leave them as is, and it should get you have working. Then press on the receive and send tabs, and then you apply the changes. Okay, and then the receive tab, I'm just going to reset for now. The receive tab is basically simply similar to what we saw in the FTP. You can either get or put commands. And I'm not going to run an MLLP right now because I don't have the server running, but it's pretty much same as FTP. Now that's it for FTP and MLLP. And another important part that you'll have to know is to how to contact support. So Clear support requires a bundle which you can get by clicking on help, support and a bundle. Here you can specify incident number new and then give a problem description and say what are the host files. Let's say if I had a problem with MLLP, I'll just say MLLP and generic FTP and then say save as. Okay, there's an error message, but then it'll create a zip file. This zip file is what you'll have to send it to Informatica support so that we will forward it to the Clear support. So that's it. We've come to the end of the presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for